I started producing seriously at 17, now I'm 27 and I'm a top 2% producer with 127 million streams, 9 top 50 records, and I made my first 100k producing. In this video, I'm gonna break down 10 years of lessons that would have saved me years of trial and error if I knew them when I was starting out. So, lesson 1 is that it takes longer and it's harder than you think. Pause for all you dirty-minded people out there, but this is actually facts. So, whenever you start on a new opportunity, you have what is called uninformed optimism. And that was me when I was just 17. I had uninformed optimism. So I thought that, okay, cool. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to become a full-time producer. It's going to take me about 6 months perhaps, because I got my friends. They're really good. We're going to make songs. We're going to release them. Everybody's going to love them. And it's just going to go smoothly. It's going to be a smooth ride, easy all the way through. That is uninformed optimism. And it's always like this whenever you start on a new opportunity, because you don't know all the hardships of that opportunity, because you might have met people, you might have watched YouTube videos, and all of these people, they make it look so simple. Like, for example, in my case, I thought that, okay, cool, I'm just gonna make some songs, send out some beats, network with some people, get placements, get paid, whatever. But then you start doing these things, and that's when you reach and that's just when you reach pessimism. Because what ends up happening is that there's a lot of things you didn't know were problems with this. Like, for example, when I was chasing or going after placements, basically I noticed that, okay, artists are not responding. The artists I can work with, they're not streaming. We're not making songs. Oh, artists refuse to pay me. And you reach this point of pessimism where you're like, okay, shit, this was a lot harder than I thought it was, but I'm going to keep going. And that's when you enter, it's actually called a dip here, but in other contexts, it's called the valley of despair. So you reach the point of pessimism, and then you go down into the valley of despair. And that is when you've been doing this for a while, you're grinding hard, you're working really hard, but nothing seems to work. And that is where most people then quit and give up. And that's why this lesson is so important, because just know that this is going to be a lot harder and it's going to take longer than you actually think. So you might end up here and you might stay here for a year. Me personally, I stayed here for about a year. And during this year, I was literally grinding 24/7 and I literally lived in a studio. So what I would do is that I would wake up around 6 every morning to get to my 9 to 5. I would work from 7 until 4 on my 9 to 5. Then I would take the train into the city, back to the studio, take sessions from like 5. I would eat frozen pizzas. That's what I literally lived off of. Then I would take sessions from 5 to 12 in the night, sleep my 6 hours, like I would just pass out on the couch, sleep, repeat. And I did that for a year without really seeing any results. And the reason why this part is necessary and so important is because it's during this part that you learn and you develop the skills which will then take you to informed optimism. Because when you're here and you're struggling, you're going to be learning a whole lot of things. And then those things are going to help you see more clearly. So then you're going to reach informed optimism. So now you're optimistic again because you can see that there's a way out of this. But you're informed and you know the pitfalls, you know how difficult it is, but you also know what you need to do to get out of it. And that's when you keep grinding, you keep working, and then at last you achieve or you get achievement, like you get what it is that you wanted to get. And this is true in my life as well, because I struggled here and I was literally about to quit here. But then it started to look up. I started to understand what I actually needed to do. And then by the end of that long ass terrible year when I was stuck here, I had my first record on the charts. And that kind of opened up everything for me after that. So that is lesson 1. It's going to take longer and it's going to be harder than you actually think it is. That's just lesson number 1. And you might not believe me right now, but I promise you, like, once you start doing this, you're going to notice this for yourself. Now, Lesson 2 is a little bit in the same spirit as lesson 1, which is lesson 2 is that nobody owes you anything. Just you working doesn't mean that you automatically deserve success. Like, just showing up and doing the necessary things that is required for you to see success as a producer does not mean that you deserve success. And the reason I included this picture is because at this point in time, I was actually on the train to my work, and it was during this 1 year period where everything just kind of sucked. And the reason I included this is because I remember this moment very clearly. And I remember what I was thinking in this moment. And what I was thinking was that, oh, I'm putting all of this work. I should see success. These artists, man, they just don't show up on time. They just don't get me. Oh, they're not serious. Oh, they don't want to pay me. Blah, 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 blah. All of these excuses as to why I wasn't seeing success. And the main reason I wasn't seeing success was because I had zero skill. Because I was doing the right things. I was networking. I was doing sessions. I was making songs, doing records. It's just that I had zero skills in terms of making beats that actually made good songs. I had zero skills in terms of getting artists that were actually good. Like, that is a skill too. I had bad networking skills, so I wasn't getting much out of the networking that I was doing. I wasn't jumping on the opportunities that I could. So it was just a skill deficiency. And the sooner you can realize that nobody owes you anything, and just you showing up doesn't mean that you deserve success, the faster you can have more self-accountability and actually develop the necessary skills. Because if you keep blaming it on other people or outside circumstances, sure, it might feel good. It felt good for me, but it's not going to help you develop the skills that you need so that you can actually get out of it. And that is where lesson 3 comes in, which is to have brutal self-accountability. It's always your fault. And I know that this might sound harsh, but as I alluded to in the last lesson, the difference between the songs that did these numbers and the songs that did these numbers was that I started having brutal self-accountability. Because what I would do is, like, for example, I get in touch with an artist, I send beats to them, then I don't hear back from them. Then naturally, my first response was to be like, oh, this artist isn't serious, or this artist is so full of himself, he doesn't even respond to my beats. Sure, that might be the case, but I don't know. So the better thing to do there is to just blame it on myself and think, okay, cool, I did not make the type of beats that he wanted. Or he might just not fuck with these beats specifically. Okay, how do I make beats that people actually want, for example? And by having this brutal self-accountability, you learn a lot. Because then it's never anybody else's fault, it's always your fault. So same thing if I made a song with an artist and that song flopped compared to the other artist's songs. What I would do is that I would be like, oh, the artist, he wasn't on it that day. Oh, why did he release this? This is his fault. He shouldn't have released this. Whereas, like, that did not serve me. The only thing that did serve me was, okay, this did not work out the way I wanted it to. Why is that? And what can I do to make sure that I don't do that the next time? So how do I make beats that turn into better songs? How do I guide the artist in sessions so that we actually make their highest performing songs? And the way that I then went about that was by, like, analyzing big songs on the charts, also learning how to properly run a session, how to make top lines for artists, how to even more or less like pick beats for them that I knew they would sound good on, and like develop that producer muscle. And that is also what led to me making these big records when I did that. But I was stuck here when I had zero self-accountability and I was just always blaming it on other people. It's easier because you put the power elsewhere, but in the long run, it's not going to serve you. Look at things going wrong as it being your fault, even if it isn't, because you can only control what you do. And by looking at it as if it's your fault, you're going to be able to find what you can do in those situations to make it work better. Now, lesson 4 is that focus is key. So don't chase multiple business models. And I'm guilty of this myself. So what I see a lot of people tell me, and after talking to a lot of producers, I noticed that everybody has this false belief that if I do multiple business models, I'll get multiple income streams. Because, for example, you might have a Type B channel. The Type B channel is bringing in a few sales. But then you're like, okay, these few sales aren't enough, so I'm going to start selling digital products or whatever so that I can make up for the lack of sales with my Type beats. Or you might be like in the studio getting placements, you're making a little bit of money through the royalties, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to start sync licensing to make up for the lack of income I'm making here. However, that is the exact reason why you're not making the amount of income that you want with any of these models, because all of these models work. It's just about which one you make work. Because if you're chasing placements and you're doing the whole industry thing, that takes up a lot of time. It takes up a lot of effort. You need to develop a lot of skill. You need to get really good in order for it to generate something. However, if you then add another business model on top of that, you need to develop just as much skill. You need to put just as much time into this in order for you to get so good that it actually generates an income. But the problem here comes when you're trying to do multiple things at once, because you get spread so thin and you don't develop enough skill in any of them to where you can actually see results. The better version is, once you see something bring in some type of results, double down on it, do even more of it, and do it better. Because there's people out here who are just doing one of these business models and making far more money than you or me. Which means that there's levels to the business models. And depending on how good and how high of a level that you can reach, the more success you'll see with it. But the only way to get there is to stick to one and stay focused on it and develop the skills necessary to see that level of success with the model that you chose. But jumping from different ones or trying to supplement them to develop multiple income streams is not going to work until you mastered one of them. Once you mastered one of them and you feel like you maxed it out, then you can add another thing on top. But until you mastered one of them and really maxed it out, don't even think about it, because it's just going to distract you and it's going to keep you from making money and making progress rather than helping you make money and make progress. Now, lesson 5 kind of ties into this, because a lot of times the reason people switch is because, first of all, they get here in the dip and they want to switch. The second reason is that it's kind of boring. A lot of this music stuff is pretty boring because you basically just do the same things over and over again on a daily basis. And that is actually lesson 5. And that is, the work begins when the excitement wears off. It's going to be boring. It's going to be repetitive. It's work now. Because when you're just having music as a hobby, you can kind of run around, do whatever, have fun. I'm not saying that you can't have fun when you're doing it as work, but it's not going to be as fun. Because sometimes you're going to have to make beats when you don't feel like it. You're going to have to take sessions when you don't want to. You're going to have to grind. You're going to have to work. And you're going to have to do the boring stuff as well. Like sending outreaches. Like fucking collecting metadata. Exporting stems to an engineer. Like, that shit sucks. But you're going to have to do the boring stuff as well, because that's required in order for you to make an income doing this. It's one thing to just have it as a hobby, but once you want to do it as an income, you're going to have to do the boring, repetitive tasks over and over again. And when that stops being exciting, that's when the work begins. And that's where most people can't stick to it, because they see this as a hobby and as a fun thing. And then they get all confused when it's not always sunshine and rainbows and super fun all the time. But that's just what it is. And then you kind of just have to weigh the pros and the cons. Like, do I rather want to be in a 9-to-5 or do I rather want to have this? Even though producing isn't fun all the time, would I rather do that than being in a 9-to-5? If the answer is yes, go for it. But the work begins when excitement wears off. So when it stops being fun all the time, that's when the work begins. And that's when you actually need to stick to it. Lesson 6 is that you're not special. Thousands of people have succeeded before you. So all you need to do is to repeat the same activities as somebody successful, and you'll repeat the same outcomes. Repeat the same activities, repeat the same outcomes. And you're not special, and this has helped me a lot, because at a point in time, when I was in this like terrible year of nothing really working, I started to feel like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I can't make this work. But it's not that I can't make it work. It's just about whether I choose to make it work or not. Because I'm not special. Like if I literally do what others before me have done to seek success, I will too. It's just about that I need to do it for long enough and get good enough at it so that it actually brings me results. But there's no secret hack, there's no secret sauce. It's just you. It's just you. And if you can just do the same things as others have done before you to succeed, you will also succeed. There's nothing that says that you can't. You just need to repeat the activities. Now, lesson 7 is that you don't need more time. Your 9 to 5 isn't holding you back. I used to believe this, and I know from talking to a lot of people that they blame their lack of success on their 9 to 5. But that's not really true, because I used to do that. But at the same time, I managed to go full-time with music while working my 9 to 5. So what was it that I actually did differently? Well, what I did differently was that I started focusing on taking the right actions and just doing the right things, because you can be working a lot, but if you're working on the wrong things, it's not going to benefit you in any way. The second thing is that I really focused on like maximizing my time outside of my 9 to 5. And that's where things like going to the studio straight after work, taking sessions, doing all of those things comes into play, because we all have the same 24 hours, right? It's just about what we do with them. And the first and most obvious thing that I did was cut out like all of the unnecessary BS, like doom scrolling and stuff like that. But then I got even more like militant with it, and I started looking at like, okay, which relationships are draining energy? Am I hanging out too much with my friends? Like literally doing sacrifices like that, because that is kind of what you need to do. And if you give yourself 4 to 5 or 6 focused hours of work every day outside of your 9 to 5 to work on music, there's no chance that you're not going to be able to make it work. You're going to be able to make it work. It's just that you need to be really efficient with the time outside of it. And just quitting your job before you made anything work with music isn't a good idea, because you're going to be under financial stress and you're not going to be thinking clearly. So it's better to keep the job while you're working your ass off on the side of it to make the music thing work, and then you can remove the job. That's what I personally did. And speaking of doing the work, lesson 8 is that all work is not created equal. Being busy isn't the same as being productive. So at this point in time, I was working all the time. I was working really hard, but I was not seeing any results. And that was because I was just being busy. I was not being productive. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that you can be busy working on a lot of stuff, but none of the stuff is actually bringing you results. That is being busy. However, being productive means that you're working on the things that are actually going to bring you results. So here I was just working with the same small artists over and over again that were bringing me the same small songs, not even doing any networking to get new ones that could make me better songs or bigger songs. I was spending a lot of time making beats that were not great, so they weren't really going anywhere. And I was just super busy with the wrong type of stuff. And because of that, I saw no results. However, what I changed was that I started to look at my networking process, see, okay, where is it that it's not working? What do I need to do to make it work? And then do that. So like reach out to artists who were slightly bigger than the ones I already had, focus more on people connected to bigger artists and stuff like that. Also making sure that I actually asked people what kind of beats they wanted and made that for them, instead of just trying to guess and make like a shitload of beats that nobody would use, and so on. And that took me from just being busy, doing stuff without ever getting anything from it, to doing stuff that I actually got results from. Now, lesson 9 is a big one, and that is that nobody besides yourself can quote unquote put you on. Because I see this all the time where producers think that, oh, if I just get this one connection, he'll be able to put me on. Oh, if I just get a team or a manager, they're going to fix everything for me. Like, no, that's not going to happen. It's really not. And people like A&Rs and stuff, they only come to you once you've seen success anyways by yourself. Like, that's when they come to you. So nobody but yourself can put you on. Like, you need to put in the grind, put in the work to build the connections, go out there, get into sessions, and climb up the ladder. Like, you need to do that. That's a requirement. Nobody else can put you on. There's no quick fixes. You can't just expect people to do the hard work for you. Now, the last lesson is on the same topic, and that's lesson 10, and that is to stay in the game and give yourself a fighting chance. Because this does take time. It might be hard at times, but if you literally don't quit, there's no possibility that you will fail. All you need to do is to stay in the game, keep improving, keep making 1% improvements to all aspects of your production career, and eventually you'll win.